Are we on? Are we ready? I'm just kidding, of course we are. Welcome to my new segment called Ask an Embroiderer. In this segment, we're going to be talking about the history of embroidery terms, and any other facts that I can come up with. Let's get started. My name is Sue, and I am from OML Embroidery, and we're going to be talking and learning all about the history of embroidery. How cool is that? Not boring history from school, more like interesting facts about embroidery. So anyone who does embroidery should be interested in this, and plus it'll be fun, right? No matter if you enjoy machine embroidery for your hobby, or if you do it professionally, or if you're like me and embroidery is life, this segment, Ask an Embroiderer, will be fun. I mean, really, did you expect anything less from me? Of course it'll be fun. If you have embroidery questions, make sure you add them in the comments. I read all the comments. While you are there, hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already. These are ways that you can support this channel, and so we can keep having all this embroidery fun. So, embroidery is defined by Wikipedia as the craft of decorating fabric or other materials using a needle to apply thread or yarn. Okay, that's a little vague, but I guess in ye olden days, that's exactly what they did. That's what it was. Of course, we're talking about hand embroidery, not machine embroidery yet. They did not, in the olden days, they did not have embroidery machines. No. So, fun fact, machine embroidery started in, do you know? 1964, and Tajima was one of the first to create an embroidery machine. Embroidery machines were commercial and extremely expensive, and I'm going to say really, really big. There was no such thing as home embroidery at that time. So embroidery also incorporated many embellishments such as pearls, beads, quills, and sequins. I'd like to explore that a little bit more. Embroidery was used to create gorgeous dresses and clothing and decorating the home. Think pillows. Embroidery back in the old days took a long, 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 long time to finish. It was a lot of work. It was really expensive and really time consuming. I don't think pushing a bone needle through fabric a gazillion times is my idea of fun, especially without Netflix. I mean, really? Another fun fact, the first basic techniques or stitches of the earliest embroidery was, can you guess what kind of stitch it was? Chain stitch, the blanket stitch, the running stitch, of course, satin stitches, and cross stitch. You should recognize these types of stitches. They're still used today in machine embroidery, which is awesome. You'll never look at the running stitch the same way after this because it's cool. We'll talk about more about this in a later machine embroidery video. Sewing techniques for tailoring, fixing, mending, and reinforcing created different techniques that led to embroidery. So it started with sewing and it moved over to embroidery. Early embroidery was really a technical accomplishment, and it had a really high standard of craftsmanship, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. So how far back in history does embroidery go? In China, embroidery was found the 5th to 3rd century BC. BC. Wow. Embroidery has been around for a long time. In a garment from the migration period in Sweden, which is around 300 to 700 AD, ish. There are garments that have reinforced bands of trimming, and there is evidence of a few different types of stitches: running stitch, back stitch, stem stitch, and whip stitching. It's not really decorative embroidery stitches per se, but it does show the beginning of the development of embroidery. So, pretty cool stuff. All of it had to be developed. The techniques, the different styles. Embroidery in ye old days really depended on the location, the time in history, and the materials available. It's not like you can hop out to the quilt store and get more thread or yarn if you run out. Making yarn, thread, and fabric at the early times was really time consuming too. Depending on the time in history, there could be expert hand embroiderers or everyone would be doing embroidery. So sometimes it was only for the professionals, and other times, even the less wealthy people were doing embroidery. It just really depended on what you had available. Often, embroidered and embellished clothing, household items, think pillows, bedspreads, were only for the wealthy. It was really expensive and really time consuming. The silk that they embroidered on, really expensive. So if you were rich, you could show off your embroidery at your house or on your person in the form of the very elaborate dresses. Everyone would see it and know your status. So in medieval England, they had a professional workshop and guilds funded by the wealthy, because they were the only ones who could afford it, to embroider various elaborate items. So is that like a medieval sweatshop? An embroidery medieval sweatshop? I wish I could go back in time and look at a medieval workshop, embroidery workshop. What do you guys think that would look like? I don't know. I'll look into it. In the 18th century in England, the girls of wealthy families were taught complicated and heavily embellished embroidery on very expensive silk fabric. These fine silks were made into samples produced by the daughters, the wealthy daughters, and everything was judged. Everything was judged. Thank goodness we don't do that. The skilled embroidery by these girls conveyed social standing, rank, and marked a girl's path into womanhood. Yeah, I said it, but I didn't make it up. I didn't make it up. A path into womanhood. I guess it did, but in modern times, we, I guess, don't teach our daughters how to do embroidery. Although we might now. I taught my kids how to crochet and knit because I know how to do that. But yeah, I didn't consider it their path into womanhood. But different times, different rules, right? So, yeah, modern embroidery doesn't mark anything. Perhaps your skill level digitizing and stitching and working the machines, but it's not like it used to be. So, yeah, especially your journey into womanhood. Other than showing wealth and skill, those were big, huge things back in the old days. Embroidery was also folk art and used materials that non-professional embroiderers would be able to get. So sometimes it was hard for people to get the embroidery supplies, and sometimes it was easy. So folk art embroidery was usually bright and bold, but not necessarily, and made a big statement about the culture. One is called Hardanger, and it's from Norway, and here's a picture of it to see. Isn't that beautiful? So much work into that. Whew. And another one that I really like is called Mount Mellick, and it's from Ireland, and I'm sure there's a much better way of pronouncing it, but I tried my best there. And this is what it is. And if you notice, this is not bright. It's tone on tone, but it is absolutely beautiful. It looks like they're using thick yarn on it, but wow, isn't that nice? Wow. Maybe we should examine the different styles of early folk art embroidery. maybe that's something we can look into. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions, culture or countries that has stunning embroidery that we can look at, different styles. So it is interesting to me, and hopefully to you out there, to see how our favorite hobby, our life, embroidery, was developed. And it was developed from sewing, and how far back embroidered clothing can be found. Even if it's just a reinforcement of it, it goes way back. And embroidery way back then was as gorgeous as what we're doing now. So I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys learned something about embroidery. Let me know in the comments if you want more. I've done some more research and we could do more of these. It's interesting and it's fun. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.